Fighter is one of those classes that I think a lot of people can look at and think, man, this is going to be a pretty boring class. Well, in this video today, I want to go over the Fighter and how it is maybe a boring seeming class, but how it is just like bacon. And it makes every other class way better at being that class in a multi-class scenario. So what we're going to do here is I'm just going to use the character select screen from, or the character creation screen, this isn't a fighting game, from the early access, and I'm going to kind of talk about how the fighter can spice into stuff like the rogue, the wizard, the warlock, the swords, everything, depending upon how you want to take advantage of this class. And we're going to talk about what that base kit can do and how it spices into these other classes. If this is your first time on my channel, the way I like to do things here is by upfronting the knowledge in my videos so you can stick around if you so wish. So with that being said, what I'm going to be talking about is the level 2 action surge that you get for fighter, and the level 5 extra attack that you get for fighter, and how you can spice them into pretty much every other class. Now, if you already knew that as a D&D veteran or whatever, then you're just free to shut the video down. But before you do, please don't forget to like, comment, and or subscribe. All those things do help me out in an absolute huge way. And feel free to kind of stick around too and correct me if there's anything I say that's a little wrong or anything like that. I want to make sure that people get the best information possible before jumping into BG3 at the end or the beginning of next month. You can jump ahead to any part of the video that interests you the most. I've got chapters listed in the timeline below that you can just kind of use to navigate as you see fit. Also, if you need help with any of the basic terms that we go over, stuff like advantage or what a proficiency bonus is, stuff like that, I have a guide linked in the description and pinned comment that just kind of goes over those things at a high level. Lastly, too, I do have a Twitch where I will be streaming Baldur's Gate 3 that you should definitely check out when the game does launch. I did say lastly, I got one more lastly. There is a brand new Baldur's Gate 3 wiki that is community run. It's ad free, that they're trying to get as many people to take a look at. So I'm going to put a link to that in the description and the pinned comment. Please go and check them out. So if you want a lot more information on stuff that I maybe kind of glossed over in this video or other videos maybe did, or you want to just find more information about the individual classes and how they actually play in Baldur's Gate 3, a lot of my knowledge comes from the 5th edition Player's Handbook, which is different, right? Please go and check them out. They need as much love as they can get because it's all community run and there's no ads, so they don't make a bunch of ad revenue or anything. So please go and check them out. But let's get started here on why you should choose the fighter class for Baldur's Gate 3. So yesterday I put up a video for the fighter going over the subclasses and everything like that. And I wanted to kind of do it its own justice. I didn't want to sit there and go, oh yeah, the fighter, it would just do it like this and this and this. I wanted to kind of give people its own merit on the fighter if they wanted to approach it from a singular pure class. But the fighter itself has amazing capabilities to be spiced into any class. And let me talk about the base kit and why that is so good. There's 3, well, I guess maybe 4 real big things that you're going to look at. For one are the proficiencies. You're going to get I almost said a bonus proficiency. You're going to get a proficiency in light, medium, heavy armor. Also, shield proficiency and simple and martial weapons. You're covered when it comes to weaponry and armor in the game. Remember, an armor proficiency in the way it works here, wearing heavy armor will not impose disadvantage on your attack rolls or prevent the casting of spells. So maybe you want to play a cleric that doesn't choose a domain that gives them heavy armor. Well, now it does if you start with that fighter as your multi-class to spice in that ability to use heavy armor. Maybe you went with ranger and you didn't do ranger knight, which would have given you heavy armor. Well, now you can with the fighter. So this gives you a lot of different kit capabilities that can push into some other classes as you see fit. You also get a fighting style. So if you are, again, a melee class that does not have either access to fighting styles or specific fighting styles that you would have liked to have chosen, the fighter's going to give them to you. Archery, defense, dueling. Now, I've gotten this wrong before in some of my other videos. Dueling is not single weapon fighting, which it used to be called in like Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. Dueling means that you fight with a weapon in one hand. A shield is not a weapon, so you can have that in your offhand here, and it doesn't confer, it still gives you the +2 bonus damage. Great weapon fighting for using two-handed weapons, protection for using a shield to help out your bros and give a disadvantage to any enemy that attacks them, and 2-weapon fighting, well, for fighting with 2 weapons. So you get those 2 things right out the gate. But then there are 2 things that you get as you level fighter, and it's then level 2 is the big thing that it's going to apply to pretty much everyone. Level 2 is Action Surge. Starting at the 2nd level, you can push yourself beyond your normal limits for a moment. On your turn, you can take 1 additional action on top of your regular action and a possible bonus action. This allows you to basically give the ability to do additional actions. Are you a wizard that wants to cast another action in a specific round? Well, boom, there you go. You've got it here with your action surge. Are you a melee class that wants to pull more action into your kit? Boom, here you go with action surge. And then at level 5, we get an extra attack. So an extra melee attack. That's different than casting a spell. So the way extra attack works is when you choose the action to attack, the attack action, you use your weapon twice. So you can attack twice instead of once whenever you take the attack action on your turn. So those 4 things are absolutely huge, and why they're going to spice into all these other classes. And also too, you get Second Wind, which is a free healing capability as a bonus action. It's a 1d10 plus your fighter level. So in this instance, it's a +1, but let's say I'm fighter level 5, it's a +5. So at max, it would give me 15 health, right? At minimum, it's gonna give me 5 health. Well, I guess 6, right? Because of 1 plus 5. So that's a cool thing if I did a level 5 fighter. So that's the base kit. Let's talk about specific classes from a melee and from a casting standpoint and how they can really be boosted with the fighter. And just as a bit of point of clarification with the heavy armor proficiency, if you multi-class into the fighter, you don't get the heavy armor proficiency. And I'm not sure if I made that 100% clear. You have to either start as a class that has that heavy armor proficiency to get it. You can't just simply multi-class into. So being, say, a wizard and then multi-classing into fighter doesn't grant you heavy armor proficiency. I wanted to make sure that was clear because I don't think I drew a hard enough line. But if I was a fighter that then multi-classed into a wizard, I would get that heavy armor proficiency because I'm starting with heavy armor proficiency. Same thing if I was a paladin, I did the same. Jumping into our casting classes, we can really get a lot of value out of action surge, right? Because action surge is going to give us that additional action, and that action can be filled up with a spell. So, I mean, you take a look at the wizard, right? You can really have a lot of fun here just by simply casting another spell. Or you take a look at someone like the sorcerer, where you've got your sorcerer points that you can spice into your spells to get a ton out of them, right? Like the meta magic that you can just go completely wild stuff with, stuff like twin spell or subtle spell or quicken spell, heighten spell, all that kind of action to really pull a lot of usefulness out of action surge. This is going to be really crucial here for you because you can just get way more going. I mean, you also kind of have to think of it too when you look at your base kit and when they get different abilities, right? Like, oh, okay, you know what? You're playing a sorcerer and the majority of all their stuff happens at like a pretty fast point. Then they get their ability score improvements and a sorceress restoration. Or if you're looking at other classes, most of the time their big things that happen are under level 10 or like 14 or 15. Well, my point here is if our max levels that we can get in the game is 12, having level 10 sorcerer or wizard or whatever and 2 fighter allows you to get access to all the fighter perks that you want, as well as also action surge, and then probably the majority of the stuff with the kit, right? That's why it is so awesome to really spice this in. And I've talked about sorcerer and wizard here, but of course this also applies to warlock, and then adding different armor proficiencies into warlock to have a lot of fun here, adding a lot more weapon proficiencies into the warlock. Now maybe you're going to go with Pact of the Blade and you can just kind of get whatever weapon proficiency you want, but this allows you to take some, okay, you know what, on my turn, I'm going to use my cantrip for Eldritch Blast, but since I've got Action Surge, I'm going to use this as a chance to get more out of my turn as a Warlock. And there are plenty of other classes that have ways to add actions into their kit, and you can use those things in conjunction with Action Surge. Well, maybe I'll wait to talk about this on the melee section, but this applies to Druid or Cleric, which maybe aren't the pure caster of a wizard or a sorcerer, but they still have plenty of casting options built into them. So using these kind of capabilities is, I didn't even realize the Druid had such a wild accoutrement. But using Action Surge in this functionality just allows you to pull so much more out of each and every one of your already existing classes. It's like I said, with the fighter, you're just adding bacon to your druid or adding bacon to your wizard or your sorcerer. And if maybe you like turkey bacon instead, maybe you like tofu bacon, toffee bacon, whatever the hell it is. You have all these different options for just spicing these guys up. So now we've talked about your casting classes. Let's talk a little bit now about our melee classes. So with the fighter being obviously a melee class, you get a lot of functionality with them. So while a casting class, I'd probably only take a fighter to like level 2, right? That way I get action surge and I'm good to go. But with a melee class, I get a lot of fun stuff if I progress to level 5, depending upon my melee class. And I'm going to throw Druid, Cleric back into this mix because you can kind of go a more melee route with them if you so wish. But let's take Rogue, for example, as just a kind of like a base situation. If I go to level 5 on my fighter, I'm going to get that action surge we've talked about on our casting class. But now level 5, I get access to extra attack. Now, if I multi-class, there is no extra attack that the Rogue gets. Now, what extra attack means is when you would use your attack action, you would then, rather than just simply attacking once with your weapon, you'd attack a second time. It's not that you take 2 actions, it's that you get 2 attacks out of an attack action. I hope that makes sense. It's kind of convoluted to say out loud. If you see it in the game, it'll make a lot more sense. But the Rogue at level 5 gets Uncanny Dodge, rather than most classes that are pure melee classes or melee-centric classes get an extra attack around level 5. Sometimes a little bit older or earlier. Older? What? But you get extra attack. Well, now the Rogue gets that extra attack, and now they get Uncanny Dodge, and now they get Action Surge, and now they get Cunning Action. Remember? Cunning Action is what allows them to use a bonus action to do dash, disengage, or hide. So you get all this added fundamental ability into this class, which is absolutely sick. Say you go down Thief. Well, Thief can use their cunning action to make a dexterity sleight of a hand check, use their thieves tools, or use an object, or then maybe use action surge and get action surge to get a little bit more out of it. What is worth noting though, when it comes to the ability of extra attack, let's say I chose, I believe, Ranger. Yeah, Ranger gets extra attack at level 5. You cannot stack extra attack, so I don't get my level 5 fighter level 5 fighter extra attack and my Ranger level 5 extra attack. I'm assumed to just have extra attack with whichever one is at level 5, even if they both are. I don't get 2, so it's worth noting for that. But let's look at this too with in regards to Rogue. We now get the ability to have some fighting styles sprinkled into the class that we didn't have before, which is really, really fun. Or Ranger here, which does actually get access to fighting styles, but now we get the whole gamut of fighting styles because Ranger, I think, has to choose a specific subclass to get access to those fighting styles, if I remember. Oh, no, maybe I'm wrong here. I'm looking at the book. Oh, no, they do. Archery, defense, dueling, and 2 weapons. Well, maybe I wanted to use a 2-handed weapon, or maybe I wanted to use protection, those fighting styles. Well, now I get it. So getting these access to differing ways to approach these classes is huge. Paladin is a good example. Maybe I wanted to dual wield as my Paladin, and we don't have, I think there's an oath in one of the extended books that does allow you to do it. Well, now we do because of that fighter. Or Druid here, getting access to that extra attack for Druid if I want to go more into the wild shape portion of Druid. Or Cleric or Bard now can actually have the capabilities to stay alive a little bit better, get that action surge to help them out on casting their spells, using their cantrips, using their attack capabilities, their bardic inspiration, their combat inspiration, all those things that they otherwise would need to use those on an action. They can now get that action surge to get a little bit of bonus out of it. Or don't even get me started on Barbarian. My good buddy Remortis has said that a really cool build that you can take is a level 3 fighter that goes into champion, which takes advantage of all the improved critical hit capabilities, and then go 9 levels into barbarian to just completely be a dumpster house of critical attacks and fun stuff like that. So you get a lot of ways to spice up every single class with the fighter, and I think that, like I said, taken on its own merits, the fighter can seem quite bland and boring. Maybe you just don't want to, like, oh, okay, I'm just a guy who can do stuff with a sword and a shield, or a bow and arrow, or 2 weapons. I don't really have anything crazy. I have disregarded the Battlemaster from this almost entire conversation because the Battlemaster is just tits out awesome. But the fighter makes everything way better at what it does. And like I've said before too, the majority of things don't really trigger. I'm looking here through as I'm talking, I'm kind of looking through the player's handbook because I'm not the master of D&D. But Okay, like take the Ranger, for example. They get an ability at level 10, but then the next one at level 14. And we can't even go to level 14 in this game. So if I just took 2 levels of fighter, I would be able to take advantage of hide in plain sight, which is what happens at that level. Or take, for example, the Paladin, right? The Paladin doesn't really, they get Aura of Courage, then improved Divine Smite at 10 and 11. Then after that, it's ability score improvements at level 12. So you can basically spice around into these things and still get tons of flexibility into them. Now, of course, the only thing I really can't talk about in this section is Monk, because it's not in the early access. But I mean, that has an option still to push that into a Monk, or again, Druid is another great example of someone that just doesn't get the capabilities to fight as well in close combat. Spicing into fighter gives you that little bit. So hopefully now you have a better idea of why fighter is a very fun, good thing to use as a base for your multi-classes, or as something that you pepper yourself into later to get more functionality into all of your classes. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. If you have any questions, or you know what, you have any suggestions, you're a D&D veteran, this is how you've used fighter for a lot of multi-classes, please let it be known in the comment section below. Like I said, I'm no D&D expert, so anything that any of the veterans can pop in and say about it would be absolutely appreciated. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching today. Have a good one, and take care.